Hello and welcome to Newstellers. I'm your host, Soo Jung Pei. Last week we had a very special panellist in our Newstellers studio. That panel consisted of 5 of our 16 journalists recently visiting Korea for the Invitational Programme for International Journalists 2015, hosted by Arirang TV. This week we followed all 16 of our journalists on their week-long trip around Korea. So shall we take a look at Korea in the eyes of our journalists? Cars carrying the international journalists pull up to a hotel in Seoul. The journalists introduce themselves, but it'll take a while for them to get to know each other. All the journalists are gathered together because they were invited to Korea by Arirang TV. All 16 are staying in Korea for 7 days. They all have different expectations about their trip.
I'm from Ecuador in South America, really far away. And there is a lot of news about Korea. It's always interesting for a journalist to know more about it.
Поднимает очень важный вопрос взаимоотношения Республики Корея и другой страны, ее ближайшего соседа по полуострову.
我希望能够通过对脱北者的那个采访，会有更好的那个了解一下朝鲜的现状。
Tôi rất muốn đi chụp hình và tìm hiểu cái văn hóa đã lâu đời của người Hàn Quốc ở cái làng Hanok.
Looks like the first day went smoothly, judging by their smiles. I can't wait to see how the rest of their trip goes.
북한 사이가 정말 사람으로서 사이고 다른 나라에 대해서 정말 알게 되면서 그때부터 제가 탈북을 결심하게 됐습니다.
It's day 2. The journalists are visiting the National Human Rights Commission of Korea. A special meeting has been arranged. The meeting begins and 3 North Korean defectors start talking about their lives in the north. Over 30,000 North Korean defectors currently live in South Korea. This meeting was set up on the journalists' request. They wanted to hear firsthand about the human rights abuses in North Korea. The journalists listened intently to the defectors' stories. They took notes, flicked through what they wrote, and took as many photos as they could.
제가 탈북하게 된 가장 큰 동기는 북한 전역에서 이제 고민하는 과정에 20만 명밖에 안 되는 작은 도시였던 저희 도시에도 이제 200여 명이 금연총화에서 처형당하게 되는데요. 한 번에 한 12명씩 막 총살하는 것도 직접 봤고요. 망치로 감옥 안에서 죽이는 정도로 이렇게 많은 사람이 총살도 하고 또 감옥 안에서 머리도 까 죽이는 그런 처형도 이제 서슴지 않게 북한에서는 자행을 했습니다.
북한의 거래는 한국식에 320만 명의 아사자들이 생겼습니다. 근데 거기서도 제일 정말 힘들었던 것이 저희 그 아이들이라고 생각합니다. 1994년
It was an emotional scene. The journalists fixed their eyes on the defectors as they listened to the harrowing tales of pain and despair.
그렇게 살아서 사랑하는 엄마와도 헤어졌고 사랑하는 동생과도 헤어졌고 이렇게 헤어져서 탈북을 하고
실제 북한 주민들은 자기가 할 수 있는 능력이 아무것도 없다는 것. 왜? 북한 정권의 꼭두각시로 자기가 말조차 들을 수 있는 귀조차 없기 때문에 북한 주민들은 정말 철창 없는 철창 속에서 살기 때문에 우리는 어려서부터 북한의 그러한 정권을 정말 강폭 정치로 그리고 인덕 정치로 받았습니다.
They were able to ask the defectors questions after hearing their stories.
I want to thank you very much for sharing your stories with us, which are really hard for us, some of us who live in free societies, to understand. And then I want to ask you about your reception here. I mean, these societies have been divided now for many, many years, decades, and they're very different. How were you received here?
이제 한국에 와서 어땠냐고 물어보는데 저는 한국에 와서 감사했어요. 인천공항에 내려왔는데 국정원 직원들이 대한민국에 잘 오셨습니다 이 말을 하는데 잠깐만요.
Okay, I'll do like. 대한민국 가서 제일 좋았던 것이 열심히 노력하면 꿈은 이루어진다. 이것이었는데 북한은 그게 없어요. 왜? 신분에 따라서 국가에서 나의 희망을 점 찍어주고 대학도 국가에서 신분에 따라서 정해주기 때문에 내가 할 수 있고 내가 혼자서 이룰 수 있는 게 아무것도 없다는 게 바로 북한의 현실입니다.
Even after the Q&A session, the journalists wanted to hear more from the defectors and offered them some emotional support.
그분들이 참말로 그 인권에 대해서 관심을 많이 두고 있고 북한을 어떻게 하면 인권을 개선할 것인가 하는데 정말 깜짝 놀랐습니다. 왜냐하면 당사자인 우리 북한 주민들 정말 안타깝잖아요. 근데 거기에 비해서 이분들 자체가 자기 가족도 아니고 같은 나라도 아니고 같은 동포도 아닌데 이렇게 관심을 넣어가지고 오늘 이렇게 많은 것도 질문하고 하는 걸 보고 제가 참 이 인권이라고 하는 것은 정말 인류 보편적인 그 민족을 초월해가지고 중요한 거라고 생각되고요.
Their next port of call is the House of Sharing in Gwangju, Gyeonggi-do province. The now elderly victims were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military during World War II. They suffered terribly for many years at the hands of Japanese troops. They have lived together in the House of Sharing since the war ended. Unfortunately, as time ticks on, the number of surviving victims dwindles. Only 47 are still alive in Korea. The nation remembers them by making statues of the victims who bravely fought for justice until their last breath. Inside the house, there are pictures of other victims who passed away without the apology they deserved.
여러분들이 각 나라에서 오셨는데 먼 데서 있거든. 찾아뵀어. 초면에 되면 반갑습니다. 그 위안부 얘기라는 건 참 어려운 건데 그렇지만은 전 세계 나라에서 다 이런 문제를 알고 알아야만 우리로 빨리 해방시킬 수 있다.
The journalists focused on gathering the women's stories so they can write reports on the highly emotive issue.
정말로 그쪽 말해서 일본 놈들이 우리 한국을 점령해가지고 일본 나라로 남겨서 일본 한국 사람을 종자로 말르려고 했지. 그때 우리 소수 여자들이 7이었대 또. 7인데 우리 도망가자. 여기서 이러다가 아버지 엄마도 못 보고 저기서 죽는다. 어떻게 하겠니? 사람을 못 살리고 욕을 하고 두들겨 했는데 도망갈래야 도망갈 수도 없고 이제 붕둥 물러앉았어요. 방구석에 불렁 물러앉아갖고 울기만 하지.
They continue to ask the women more questions.
마지막에 말할게요. 여러분들이 힘써서 우리를 좀 도와서 힘을 보태갖고 우리를 좀 빨리 해방받게 해달라고.
Gravestones of victims that have passed away are dotted around the House of Sharing. The journalists paid their respect with floral tributes.
Okay, when I saw the real videograph that you made and that you saw us, that was made me very sad. What had happened in the wartime, that was a very bad things. I think the concerned country and the concerned people, concerned administration address the things as soon as possible for their rights. And it is the very bad things, and the talking about the Japan and what the Japan is thinking, what the Japan administration is thinking, I don't know, but they have to apologize officially.
Seeing her and hearing what happened to her reinforces my my feeling that the Japanese have really got to face their own history, that they still haven't done it. Well, I'm a great believer in first-hand accounts, witnesses to history. I concluded, based on everything that I had looked at, archival material and books, and that one of the most powerful conduits of memory was actually witness testimony, that it was important that people hear from individuals themselves telling their stories, and it's a very powerful mechanism that, with all of the failings of memory, can't be denied.
Well, I have to tell you, it was very emotional for me. I was almost brought to tears by hearing these accounts, because I was aware of the issue, of course, but I was not aware of the scale of this question. And again, seeing in person one of the last survivors of one probably of the biggest tragedies of the 20th century is something that really touches your heart. So I hope after this trip I will be able to clarify better for the European public the dimension of this tragedy that occurred to the Korean people.
I'm sure the trip was very meaningful for them, seeing and feeling Korea's painful history for themselves. The journalists clearly feel most motivated when they report on the scene. So let's see how one experienced reporter goes from place to cover a story about Korea. She kindly let our Newstellers crew shadow her as she went about her reporting. It's not everyone's first time in Korea. Judith Miller went out to report on the Seoul Metro because she found it very safe and clean on her first visit.
Hello, how are you? How are you?
We were guided by the general manager of Seoul Metro.
Thank you.
First up, she took a look around one of Seoul's most unique subway stations. There was an exhibition about Korean traditional calligraphy in Gyeongbokgung station. Something piqued Judith's attention.
So what other kinds of exhibits do they have in here normally? And how often do the exhibits change?
얼마나 자주 바뀌냐고.
보통 여기 전시기간은 일주일을 넘진 않아요, 일반적으로.
Moving on to the next location, Judith's eyes were drawn to more details for her story. Even a unique chair on the platform catches her attention. She then got on the subway. She said the New York subway system runs 24 hours a day, but is old and irregularly inspected, so it isn't the most comfortable ride. Judith wanted to write a story about how safe and clean the Seoul Metro is, and what lessons cities in the US could learn from it. She took the train by herself. She said she feels safe within the neat interior of the train. She thinks the most impressive features are the flat screens showing commercials and telling commuters which station is next. I'm sure she'll have lots of ideas for her story now that she's actually been on the Seoul Metro herself.
And once I took the Korean subway, I knew I had to learn more about it because it was so fast, so quiet, so efficient, and it serves so many people. And we in New York have similar challenges, but our system is much, much older, and I think we have a lot to learn from how Korea manages its subway system.
She's headed somewhere else. Where is the next place for her story? Judith sat in the driver's seat. The senior engineer and the driver ensure everyone is safe.
Wow. How fast are we going?
It sure feels different sitting in the driver's seat compared to riding as a passenger.
What are his hours? How long will he be driving a train like
몇
this?
시간이나 이렇게 근무하시고 그러세요?
우리가 평균 4시간 20분.
The experience didn't last long, but Judith was able to get what she needed thanks to her sharp observation skills.
I am even more impressed with the way the subway system is run. It's
For one thing, to see a driver in a suit and tie is totally different from our system where, they just wear sweatshirts. There's a sense of professionalism and pride in the work. This is an astonishing system and great challenges for us. And I want to learn more about how you do it.
It was great to see Judith's passion for her craft. It's day 4. The journalists watch a Korean traditional performance called Pebi Changjeon. They are excited to see the show.
I'm looking forward to see this performance. Miso. Let's see what's about.
No, I never sing anything like this. Nothing traditional. I just saw in my country one performance of K-pop, but nothing traditional. So we are really looking for that.
It looks like the traditional Korean musical could captivate a global audience, considering how excited the journalists are, even before the performance starts. Pebi Changjeon is based on a satirical novel written during Korea's Joseon dynasty. It's a dance drama, combining Korean traditional dance and pansori with pungmul and other Korean customs. What did they think about the 2-hour-long performance?
Nice. It's traditional, it's good, it's fantastic. So it's very interesting. It impacts the cultural Korea, and I think it's very similar between the Chinese culture and the Korean culture.
Мне понравилось, потому что мне вспомнилось что-то, как будто раньше, как будто это со мной было тоже, потому что
В Казахстане?
Нет, вообще, это же мои корни все равно, я же кореец же, и мне вспомнилось все, что вот раньше как будто как-то древность, что ли, вспомнилось, да. Потом они все так синхронно делали, потом барабаны мне понравились, что такой звук был. Хороший звук был, и мне хотелось танцевать тоже, когда они играли на барабанах.
I hope the journalists share Korea's diverse cultural content with people in their home countries. It's the final full day before the journalists leave Korea. They paid a visit to the Bukchon Hanok village. They all wanted to drop by before they bid farewell to Korea. At the Bukchon Hanok village, you can see Korea's past and present side by side. It's one of the most popular tourist spots in the country. They learnt a lot at the museum, including the structure of ondol and the history of Hanok.
So we have like a wooden the wall like this, in between the wooden stick. Yeah, so.
They enjoyed the solitude of Bukchon Hanok village at the height of autumn.
One more.
The photos they took will help them remember their experience for the rest of their lives. The South Korean government started national brand programs to promote Korean culture earlier this year. The aim is to show the uniqueness of Korea, a country where centuries-old traditional culture is entwined with cutting-edge technology. We hope this will boost global awareness in Korea.
K-pop first, and then kimchi, and I don't know much else. Now I know much more about Korean culture. I was a bit ignorant before, and this gave me an opening on Korean culture. I mean, architecture, way of living, and everything else.
I saw in the first time, I've come to the first time. I learned more about the South Korea, about the dynasty and the old, tradition of the Korean living. I've been, very much impressed to see the preservation of all these things for the old Korean houses.
Tôi nghĩ rằng đây là một nền văn hóa truyền thống mà nó thể hiện là qua hai cái làng mà chúng ta đã đi xem. Đó là làng Trung Búc và làng Hanok. Những nét cổ của kiến trúc vẫn còn được lưu giữ và những cái nghề truyền thống vẫn còn được thể hiện ở đây, và tôi nghĩ rằng đây sẽ là một cái nơi mà thu hút rất nhiều khách du lịch.
On their last night, the journalists gathered to review their trip over a hearty meal. The president of Arirang TV, Pan Seok-ho, joined the farewell party as well.
한국을 어떻게 하면 잘 전달할 것인가 하는 것이 생각보다 굉장히 쉽지 않다라는 게 저뿐만 아니라 우리 아리랑에 있는 식구들이 점점 더 느끼는 숙제이고 어려움입니다. 그래서 오늘 우리랑 이렇게 좋은 인연을 맺으신 분들은 우리가 갖고 있는 그런 고민을 조금 같이 고민해 주시고 덜어주실 수 있는 분들이 아닐까 해서 숙제를 드리기 위해서 저희가 이렇게 저녁으로 특별히 모시는 겁니다.
How did the journalists feel about their trip to Korea?
The south of Arirang proved to be perfect ambassadors of the welcoming attitude of the Korean people towards foreign guests.
We don't really understand what is going on in this part of the world, and we don't really believe that is an important issue for Latin American people, but it is. So I will try to do my best to keep these stories alive in my reader's mind.
This trip has definitely given me a great insight into things going on the peninsula in terms of politics and also security.
Солонгосын гадаад бодлого болон хойд солонгосын нэгдэх асуудал, мөн дөрвөсдийн асуудал зэрэг олон
I didn't expect Seoul to be quite as international as it is. I love the fact that it's a truly global city.
They also gave us their final headlines.
Americans should focus more on Korea.
一个令人心碎的故事，关于一个韩国慰安妇的中国记忆。
Hàn Quốc có một văn hóa truyền thống rất tốt đẹp và vô cùng thú vị đối với lại người nước ngoài.
Korea finding the peace.
Би бол маш их хүчин чармаалт гаргаж байгаа Солонгос улс гэдэг нэрийг өгөх гэж бодож байна.
Awesome Korea, an interesting Korea, and innovative Korea.
Let's hope Arirang TV's invitational programme for international journalists is a springboard for greater global awareness about Korea. We'll be back next week with our original panelists for the next episode of Newstellers, so make sure you join us then. We will be open for any opinions or requests on our official website as well as our Facebook page.